right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Diversified Gentlemen. And today we have a special guest, Angela. How you doing?
Hey, doing good. So my name is Angela. Did you want me to do that or?
Oh yeah, go ahead and give everybody who you are. Let them know who you are. Let them know
I
how
don't want to
special you
roll
are
over
to
it.
us.
So, Angela Thompson. I've retired from the military 2 years ago after serving 30 years, and knew Jason for the last probably 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Met him at Scott Air Force Base, and so I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Diversified gentlemen for inviting. Whatever I can do to share with you, I'll share the information. But thank you for the opportunity.
No, this is coming on. You're one of the folks I talk to guys about that we have to have on. I mean, your knowledge beyond the military, just investing and networking and faith and goal driven. So we got to get her on and talk about some things, especially you being, retired Air Force woman, minority woman, you got too much to share. So I had to get you on here to spread that knowledge. So go ahead and let everybody know everything about you.
Yeah. Sure.
So the first thing we like to ask is, what makes you a diversified gentleman? But since you're the first woman we've ever had on the podcast, we would like to ask you, what makes you a diversified woman?
First, before I go into that, I just also wanted to say, this forum that you guys have and this diversified gentleman group that you guys have formed, 2 thumbs up. I think this is wonderful.
Thank you.
And something very well needed in the community of Black and brown investors, and you guys are just leading the way and knocking things in the head and taking names. So
we appreciate that. Thank you.
I can't tell you how wonderful this is. So what makes me a diversified woman?
Yeah.
Well, according to Jason, I guess it's because I have rental properties and have been doing that since about 2012. And just have been investing in the TSP and other things, the USAA stuff. So I'm financially stable and financially independent at this time in my life. I'm 57 years old, so I'm in a very good and comfortable place financially. So
you say comfortable, and I say one of the biggest things to probably get into is you work for yourself. Let everybody know right now, yes. You don't have a boss. You are your boss. You set your alarm, you set your agenda. That's an important note for everybody to know about. But let's talk about how you got to that point. A little bit about your past and what brings Angie today, 2021, from Angie back when you were a young child.
So you want to hear my story? I
guess? Hear your story.
Real quick. So I joined the military at the age of 24. I had graduated high school with some pretty low grades. So they put me in summer school for college because they didn't think I would make it. And I got a psych degree. 5 years it took me to get a psych degree. And so they said, if you really want a job as a psychologist, you're going to have to go get a master's. And I was done. So I was like, okay. So I joined the military. I joined the Air Force as an enlisted troop, aircraft maintenance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did that for first duty station was Altus Air Force Base.
That was mine too.
Yeah.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I was a crew chief on the 141s, which are now retired. And I met a guy there who he said, hey, why don't we both go to school and get our master's degree? And I was like, well, I'm not very good at math. He goes, well, I'm not very good at English, so we'll help each other out. So we did that, and we both completed our master's degrees through Webster University in management, which propelled me into my next career field in the Air Force, which was Airman Leadership School. So that was great. And then doing very well in that venue, I transferred from that to become an officer. So it all worked out. My career was fantastic. My years in the military were great.
So were you an instructor at ALS?
I was at Hurlburt Field. I became a ALS instructor.
Okay.
You guys probably remember TQM, Total Quality Management.
Of course.
I don't know if you guys were around.
Oh, yeah. Quality Air Force, remember that.
Quality Air Force. So, you know, I was an instructor for that. And then somebody said, why don't you become an Airman Leadership School instructor? So I did. So, because I knew I wanted to get out of aircraft maintenance. That's working outside. It's, you know, grease and grime. Guys are great. The people I worked with were true troopers. But I knew I had to get out of that because it wasn't something I wanted to do for 20 or 30 years. And then in 1999, I got a direct commission into the MSc officer career field, the medical career field, who I used to make fun of on the flight line.
All their air conditioning and heat in the winter.
All those medics, those wimps, but then I became one. But during that time, you guys, so as an airman and as a staff sergeant, I was not financially responsible. I was honestly $100,000 in debt.
Wow.
Student loans.
Okay, I was about to ask,
how'd that happen?
Okay.
Yeah, because the other thing is, I started while I was in. I pursued my doctoral degree in adult education and leadership, which accumulated student loans, and because I was going to get out.
Yeah.
But I had consumer debt, student loan debt, and I went to an Army basic finance class, which taught the Army soldiers how to write checks. And I remember sitting there as an enlisted person, and I was looking at that whole scene. You know, there were a bunch of junior Army guys in there, and this lady was up there, and she was talking about credit card debt, and she was showing, you know, if you had $500 of credit card debt and you only paid the minimum, it would take you 15 years or 20 years to pay it all off, and you'd be paying them 3 or 4 times as much. And something went off in my head, and I was like, oh. So thankfully, you know, being a woman of Christ, I mean, God has just watched over me through this whole thing, and he allowed me to become an officer with the awareness of getting out of debt. So I promoted my finances to master sergeant, but the rest of it went to paying off debt.
Nice.
So I just killed it. After about 4 years, I just wiped out my debt. And that means everything went to debt.
Yeah.
I mean, I barely, everybody would be like, you want to go out? I was, nope, pay off this debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So with that, it's just, it's basically discipline and consistency. How were you able to maintain that for 4 years, being so disciplined and consistent to knock out so much? Because, you know, even when you commission as a lieutenant, you're not making tons of money.
Well, I wasn't making tons of money as a enlisted person either, but I did give myself a promotion to master sergeant pay. So from staff sergeant to master, that wiggle room, if you will, allowed me to live my life. So I'd go to a movie, you know, on base, buy the little meal deal. And it's just me, so I didn't, you know, I looked at my food, and I'd have, you know, a pantry full of food and cabinets full of food. And whenever I PCS, I'd throw it all away. And I was like, I added up one time, it was like $500, $600 worth of food I'd just get rid of due to the PCS.
Yeah.
So I just started buying what I ate. I said, let me just, you know, I started changing my attitude and, you know, self-educating myself too on setting goals. The Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, his CDs, I really sat down and just started going through his CDs and listening to him talk. And he was one of the first motivated speakers that I listened to that helped me project to what do I want to do with my life? Where do I want to be? And so I kind of followed his program kind of blindly, just whatever he said, doing his DVDs, I'd do it. You know, write your goals down. I wrote them down. And I would always write down, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire. How do I do that? And so I had to get out of debt to do that. So that was kind of the motivator there.
And one thing I caught in the way that you went about getting out of debt, it doesn't sound like you became a true minimalist, but it was just practical. Like you said, it was just you. So you don't need to buy you know, $500 worth of food if you're not eating $500 worth of food. You know,
Right.
buy what you need, you know, probably meal prep a little bit, saves you from going out to eat lunch, because that does add up, right? I mean, lunch can be expensive, dinner can be expensive. And then like going to the movies on base, like, I mean, military wise, you know, this for all our military folks, I think we kind of frown at going to the movies on base unless you're overseas, because that's really the place you can go. But compared to the pricing off base, it's a hell of a deal. You can save so much money and still enjoy life. I think that's one thing that I kind of took from what you just said. You still enjoyed your free time. You just had to tailor it a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to be the person, hey, I got a group of 5 people here. Don't worry about it. I got a credit card. I'll pay for everybody's lunch.
You was balling. Your money's no good here. I got it right here. Don't even worry about it.
I'm the sergeant. I'll take care of the troops. Blam. But after that, I was like, nope, you guys, let's go to the chow hall. You guys pay $2, get your lunch.
Right. So outside of Tony Robbins, you know, his motivational DVDs and his information, what kind of other mentors you have? You had some kind of somebody in your life that kind of gave you that spirit or that mindset to be able to want to be a millionaire, to get out of that debt. What kind of drove you towards that?
Well, honestly, when I was about 10 years old, so we have a gentleman that's been a part of our family. Him and my dad served together, so he'd come over for dinner all the time. And as a child, he was a millionaire already. He was a warrant officer and great investor. And as a child, he wrote down, he opened up his checkbook. One day he was visiting and he wrote down his checkbook and he had $5,000 in there. And he said, Angela, here. And he took a copy of it and he handed it to me and he wrote his name on it. And he said, one day, he goes, this is slush money for me. This is just extra money. And he goes, I got so much more. And he goes, one day you're going to be here. And he handed that to me and I kept it for 30 years.
Really?
Wow. Yes. And he's 88 now. And I shared it with him and I made another copy and I shared when I became debt free and I became a millionaire. I wrote it down. I shared it to him. And I go, sir, do you remember this from when I was 8 years old, 8 or 9? He goes, no. He goes, but oh, you kept that. Oh my goodness. And he just made it. Hey, let me keep that. Oh my God. Wow. So that was the very first person. And then Tony Robbins, Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all those, you know, I read those things. And then that guy who I went to school with to get my master's degrees, I bought my first car. If you were at Altus, there was a long road, and at the end of that road was a car company, and they hooked me. And they charged me 25% interest on a $10,000 car. Wow. And that guy, he was a finance major and he looked at that. He was mad at me. He said, Angie, don't you ever buy a new car at that percentage rate. He said, you take and you call GMC and you refinance tomorrow. And I called and refinanced and that car dealership called me and they're like, what did you do? I refinanced.
They wanted that interest.
They were mad. Yeah. They were hooking my little butt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're notorious for taking advantage of basically the junior troops that, you know, aren't as financial literate as, you know, the more senior folks on base. And I'm not even sure why it's legal. Yeah. You know, the pawn shops, the payday loan shops, it's this highway robbery.
Yeah, this guy, he told me don't ever buy another new car. He goes, always buy used. I just remember that. And so, you know, it's not like one primary mentor. Mm-hmm. It's like a person here, a person there, a person there. And they kind of help guide you and keep you going.
Yeah, we talk about that too, about having diversified people that you're around. Or you get different gems and different people. You know what I mean? You have to. You have one person, you get one frame of mind of thinking. But if you out there expanding your mind, different environments and different social groups, you're gonna meet folks that know a lot about different things, and diversifies your thought process, and diversifies your decisions and your thinking and your outcomes. So that's important that you have that. You know, like I have several mentors, like you being one of them. You know, is one thing I learned from you is networking and how to connect with people on a level that seems natural. Like Everybody I know, you're one of the ones that I don't know how you do it, but you always get to meet people that have these stories and these backgrounds and these successes that we never meet on a regular day, but you do that, you know? So one thing I was going to bring up is, do you purposely look for folks to network with, or just as a natural thing that just happens to you?
Well, God, of course, right. Pray on it. And if you ask the right questions, if you ask and you shall receive. So I think if you search for it, it comes to you, and you have to be courageous enough to go get it. So when I've learned over the years to ask the questions and, you know, go get it. Because my dad used to always, so my dad being a mentor, of course, and my mom. But when I was a young kid, my dad would say, well, you kids are African-American and you girls are female. So you're already behind the power curve. So you're gonna have to get up earlier, work harder, and go to bed later, because that's life. So he never really tried to make us victims, but he did try to say, this is the card you were dealt. You have to play your hand the best you can. And so one of the things that he taught us is that generals, senior enlisted, presidents, everybody is basically a human being. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you. They have to use the bathroom just like you do. Of course, he'd use it in military first sergeant language, because he was a first sergeant in the Army. So he would say everybody is a human being, and you know, they're people first. So just talk to them like they're people, whether they're Black, white, Spanish, handicapped, you know, rich, poor, they're human beings. So go in with that mindset. And so that helped me to be courageous to go in and just talk to somebody, just go in and ask a question. And they are really thankful, actually. Oh man, people won't talk to me because they think I'm snobbish or whatever, but thanks for coming to talk to me. So people are people. So just come at it like that.
What do you think it was that was instilled in you to want to be a millionaire?
Well, because I struggled so hard to get out of that debt. And you know, the millionaire life looks great. And that guy gave me that money, that copy of his check. So it just sounds like the right thing to do, right? To be a millionaire. What I want to go, you got to set a goal. Why not set a goal to be a millionaire? And through my life, and actually when I got to the military, I've met many senior NCOs who are millionaires that you would never know.
No, yes.
For sure.
I was in Panama. I was in Korea, and we had Army and Air Force there, and we were all kind of hanging out. And I sat at this table with these 5 senior NCO Army guys. And I was just sitting there because I was friends. My coworker was a senior NCO female, and she was like, come on and eat lunch with us. They were sitting there. They were all African-American. And they started talking, and I was just like, what? You know, you start hearing them talk about things and investing. And I was like, these guys are, I started leaning in. Like, these guys are all doing very well. And 5 chief, what is the Army guys called? The senior NCOs, the command sergeant majors. Sergeant majors. They were all sergeant majors. And they were like you guys, you know, just sitting there talking about being wealthy, investments, and they were joking about, you know, how, hey man, yeah man, I made, you know, X number of thousand, yeah man, my wife, blah blah blah.
Wow.
I'm like, holy crap, these guys are really knocking it in the head. Which made me feel like I had to do better too, because I wasn't in their class financially. You know, I'm like, oh, these guys are really doing some good things here.
It's almost like the Matrix. What's it like, the red and green pill?
Red and
blue pill.
Blue pill or the red pill? When
you realize first you got to realize there's the Matrix. Then when you take the pill and you're now you understand investing, it just goes off, and when you're around like-minded people, it's just funny to talk. It's just like, why isn't everyone doing it? But then you got to put yourself in that position when so in last week we had a retired chief that we interviewed that hasn't aired yet, but we were talking about when I was a senior airman at Altus. He was a master sergeant, and it was his promotion party to senior. And he came to me and he was like, I'm about to buy a duplex in Killeen, Texas. I think you should. And, at the time I'm 22, 23, looking at him like, why would I do that? Why would I spend money on a place I'm not living at, right? And then I just think about just how lucrative, I think he's got it paid off now, just how lucrative an investment like that would have been then. And it's almost laughable now, and just to clarify for everyone who's all of our listeners, that being a millionaire doesn't mean when you log into your account, you have $1 million. It's assets distributed everywhere. So you may have equity, $100,000 equity in this house. You may have 200,000 in stocks. You may have this much in your retirement and so forth. And to be honest, in your accounts, your checking and savings, it's probably where you have the least amount of money, because that money's doing nothing for you.
Exactly.
Asset rich and cash poor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually,
that's the American way.
It's funny that you said that, Reese. I had lunch with a few friends yesterday, and that was the conversation that we had, because they wanted to get into investing, building a portfolio. And that was one of the key things that I said was, they were like, well, how much should I have in my savings? I was like, for you, that's something that you have to ask yourself, right? And answer yourself. I can't tell you what the magic number is, but I can tell you whatever is in your savings probably isn't making you money. So
definitely isn't.
Definitely
it's losing.
So, I can't tell you that, you need 6 months worth. I can't tell you that. That's up to you to figure out. But that money isn't making you money. That's how I go to bed. How does this dollar make me more money? And it's a switch in the way you think. And like you said, it's like knowing the matrix is there and then going towards it. You know what I mean?
I told y'all before, man, when I found out about investing and how to grow your money, I got mad. My initial thought was anger. I didn't know it before. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I said, I've been alive all these years. I'm just not figuring this out. And now you can't go back. And now you're aware of it. You can't go back. It's like you said, back to the matrix. Once you go into the matrix, know it's a thing, you can't go back in there.
There's no way.
You feel natural.
No way.
Because it's not natural to go back to it. So talks like this, it feels like regular day, to us. Those that are listening, it may seem a little different. It may seem a little out of their reach. But once you start having these conversations, it becomes part of who you are, and it's a natural thing. It becomes very natural.
Yeah. And it's hard to break from that when you're in it and you're just working. I got to get to work 9 to 5, and I got to put food on the table, take care of the kids. I got to get this kid to school. And it's hard to break out of that and see in the future and to make that plan. But once you do, oh man, it's a whole new world, right?
Yeah, you stop living paycheck to paycheck. You start actually setting goals towards the future.
Yeah. So the younger you figure that out, the better off you're going to be.
Exactly.
I honestly didn't figure it out till I was 35. Well, I got rid of the debt, but I didn't invest in stuff until I became an officer. So, and then I started waking up to that because I was out of that cloth, that debt that was holding me down. And then once I got rid of it, then I was able to see, oh, you can invest for the future. Now I can start working towards goals. Whew, what a relief.
That's a good point you bring up too, because I think that time is a big thing people don't realize. When they say millionaire and they say you have a certain amount of assets, they think overnight. Okay, cool, I want that too. But if I tell somebody, hey, it's gonna take you 10 years for you to become a millionaire and have enough assets to call yourself a millionaire, most folks be like, 10 years? That's a long time. But it takes that time. It takes that time to put the money to work, let it grow a little bit, make some mistakes, bounce back, and keep it forward. That's the biggest thing, is understanding that it's not an overnight thing. If you go out and research some of the top millionaires in the world, a lot of them, they hit it that they was in their 40s, 50s. People don't want to hear. Now, there are those that, break out early, but people don't want to hear that the time thing. They want it right now. You know, they see your parents got something or your friend has something now. Why can I have that now? They don't see that work beforehand. They don't see that, I call it the Michael Jordan free throws he was shooting after the game was over. All they see is a championship shot. You know, you got to see that work that before that, you don't see that. And it takes time.
Right.
Or the failures, all of the failed businesses.
Yes.
These businesses had all of the doors when they showed up, you know, people laughing at them for their job or undermining their vision, you know. And sometimes I think it takes, you can call it vision or faith. It takes actually believing in it, like visualizing it, and then pursuing it.
Yeah. And
even if you're the only one that believes it.
Yeah, you know the oxymoron in that is when you bring up time, people always feel a certain way with time. Like, man, 5 years, man, I ain't trying to, you know, plan for 5 years. 10 years, you crazy. Mm-hmm. And we live in a linear time, right? 10 years is going to happen. You know, I mean, God forbid something tragic happens, you're going to, you know, 10 years is going to happen. You know what I mean? So why not plan today? A lot of people are stuck in that mindset of, man, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. You know what I mean? And it's a hindrance to their growth. Instead of having that forward thought, that forward sight, you're stuck in today, and it's more of a hindrance than it is prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend from Texas. She had that southern drawl. And I was like, I was thinking about buying a rental property. She goes, well, you can be a 60-year-old with a rental property, or you can be a 60-year-old without one.
Exactly. Right.
Exactly.
And I was like, that makes so much common sense.
Yeah. That's just like the military. We get I think those who are career airmen or there's people who just, they're going to do their 20 and beyond. You get real set in your ways with basically having your day, weeks, years, career structured to get to the point that it seems like not everyone realizes that it comes to an end. One day you will be retired and you will, or, separated, but, unless unfortunately you play that ultimate sacrifice, but there will be a time where this ends, and it seems like people they freak out till they get to that finish line, and they see that huge light glaring at the end of the tunnel. Like, what do I do now? And I'm at a point where almost everything that I do, I'm setting up for, and I'm 3 years out. That I'm setting up for 3 years out, because I don't want to be that person 3 months out where. Because I used to work, and so when I was at Altus, I was a finance troop, and I used to out-process people, either going to the next base or transitioning out of the military. And you can tell some of those senior NCOs, senior officers, for whatever reason, they weren't too happy. They were a little nervous. And I'm just looking like, wow, for what you make it seem like this is a shock. You hit your higher tenure. Or they just don't want to face the inevitable that this day was coming.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a point. When I was an airman stationed in Panama, I went to the education office to talk about, becoming an officer. But Panama's hot and humid. And so walking up these stairs to get to the education office, I was sweating myself. I'm standing there talking to the education clerk, and through the doors bust in the senior NCO, and he's pouring down sweat. And I look, and he's like, I just found out I'm higher tenure. I gotta, plan for my exit strategy. I gotta get education, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, you've been in for 20 something years. Yep. And like you, I was thinking, But so here's something that I did. So when I was, and what was happening when I finally bought a property, it was in 2012, and it was kind of coming down off of the 2008 crash. It was starting to come back up. 2011, 2012, it was starting to creep back up. And I just found out that these properties were in Las Vegas selling for 3 and 4 bedrooms for cheap, $80,000, $90,000. Yep. But at that time in 2011 and 12, the Air Force was doing the drawdown. they were kicking people out. And a couple of guys in my office were getting kicked out, young lieutenants, everything. And I felt like, oh, I'm 20 years plus. I'd be perfect for them to get rid of, for me to be one of the candidates for them to get rid of me. So I go, oh my God, I panicked. I didn't have a plan. So that's when I started looking at properties. I said, oh, I need to do this. They didn't, I bought a property from Las Vegas. And then the next year I bought another one. And then I started looking, you know what? I'm coming up on my 30. I'll do 30. But I had a plan. I said, I know I don't want to retire as a colonel, but let me set up my property so that when I retire, I make enough that I would retire as a colonel. So with the passive income. So I started looking at that as my goal. And so that's how I set it up. You know, I had to do something. You just make a goal. You know, 33% of the people who write down their goals achieve them. So I wrote it down that I would retire with the income of a colonel versus when I knew I would hit lieutenant colonel. So that's how I set it up.
I'm glad you said that too. It makes a lot of sense too. You're big on real estate. And another way to look at real estate is, okay, how many properties do I need to pay for my lifestyle? Look at it that way. Instead of what kind of job do I need to make a certain amount of money? Look at it, how much property do I need, or how much asset, income producing assets do I need to sustain my lifestyle? For example, let's say I want to make $5,000 per month. All right, if I can get 5 properties that bring in, debt-free, mortgage-free, $1,000 each, I met my goal. So you look at it that way, then you can plan properly. So those that are, young right now, trying to plan forward, think about it that way. I know, what's his name? DJ Envy. He does the same thing where he'll say, all right, I want to buy this certain type of car, this certain type of thing. All right, I better find an asset to pay for that. That's how you got to think about it. Think about it in assets acquiring to buy what you want rather than chasing another job and chasing more income that way. Trading time for dollars. You've done that very well. You've got a certain amount of properties that you focused on having debt, mortgage free. That sets you free. You know what I mean? But where'd you get that idea for real estate being what you want to do?
Well, like I said, they were putting people out of the military, and I said, oh my God, I don't even have a house yet. I'd never bought a home. And so then I bought that property in Vegas, but I got sent to Japan, Kadena. And then I was like, okay, I got an income property. And now I just started looking at others. And then that's kind of when my brother had always been involved in real estate, but it never really came to fruition. So he kind of always talked to me about it. And then when I had the opportunity, I started doing it. I started buying. I said, oh, this is pretty good. And I was never awake when he was talking to me. But then when it started happening to me, then I woke up and started buying them. Nice.
What are some perks of being financially set and basically being a millionaire? What are some of the things that, the everyday common folks may not know about?
Say that again, please.
What are some of the perks of, being financially literate and most importantly, just being, financially set and being a millionaire?
Well, I don't feel like I live like a millionaire because a lot of my stuff is tied up in the assets and in investments that haven't matured yet, so I can't pull the money out. Like the TSP, I can't pull that out just yet. Even though I'm sitting around this $1 million, I don't have access to it. So I still live, based on my retirement pay. But I remember you, Jason, you in one of your podcasts or your briefings that you did for us, you said that there was a 70-year-old lady who just worked for building her assets and stuff like that. She never enjoyed it.
Yep.
And that particular podcast made me think, oh my gosh, I need to enjoy this. So you guys can't see behind me, but this is my living room. But about 2 years ago, right when I retired, I was going to refurbish my living room. But what I decided to do was pay off all my properties and then start buying myself the nice furniture. So I did that, but then I bought 2 more properties.
Yeah, I remember that. Like, let's do this. I was like, now I bought some more. I'm like,
because man, it was opportunity. But this year I've already started buying furniture, so I'm gonna go ahead and refurbish and start living. But COVID really helped me because it just let me collect cash. Thank God. And one of the things I did while I was in the military is I didn't overextend my debt. Every house that I bought was under $100,000. And I made sure, I said, okay, if I retire as a major, can I pay the mortgage on this property? And so I was able to kind of manage it like that and then pay a property off. So one of the things that I did do that you guys might want to think about, I would suggest, is deploy your butts off, because all that money is tax-free. And if you can get missed meals, that really comes up to a lot. I don't know if you guys, but pilots and people that fly can claim missed meals. And I didn't know about that. And I was in a situation where I had to claim missed meals. And I came back, it was almost $10,000. And I put that money towards paying off.
Yeah. I
didn't even know about that program. These guys were telling me, hey, you just claim these missed meals. And I was like, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
When I got home, I claimed almost $10,000 in missed meals. And I was like, this is crazy. Send me again.
Yeah.
But if you can deploy to a relatively safe place, but deploy. I had one friend, she was in charge of deployments and she would deploy herself. And for her last 2 years, she deployed, for 6 months, and she just racked it up and paid off everything. And she just went on a COVID 1 year, travel with her boyfriend, and they just traveled all over the place. So anyways, just, use this government time, because you have so many benefits with the military. You have your educational benefits, you have that VA loan. Use it as much as you can. When you PCS, get a new property, refinance, get another one, refinance, get another one. I mean, use it while you can. So when you retire, but make sure you're not leveraging too much debt, because a lot of these landlords got kicked in the butt when this COVID hit and their tenants couldn't pay. And then they lost their properties. They're in the process of not being able to pay that debt. But I was able to maintain and pay off all my mortgages, because, and I only have 2 now, but I didn't over leverage myself with that debt. So just really kind of look at everything and plan properly with these rental properties.
So I had a couple of questions for you. One, you had already in regards to, accumulating the money that you have. How has your life changed? But you kind of answered that already. So my second question is, when you're looking at a property, how do you vet what catches your eye and what you're like, okay, this is a bad investment? So what do you look for in real estate properties?
So you guys wanted to talk of one of the questions, I think, was, or we talked about it before, was mistakes.
Yeah. Yes, give me that.
So this may be an area where I kind of made some mistakes.
Got it.
When I first started into the business of rental properties, I was just looking at, can I pay the mortgage with my military pay? So, and I looked at it and I said, anything under $100,000 I can handle. And my thoughts were, I want a property that I would live in. I don't want to be a slumlord. So those were my parameters. Can I pay it? And is it a good property where I wouldn't become a slumlord? But when I talked with Jason, you want to do that 1%, or, you want to run some numbers, but I wasn't really paying attention to that. So talk to Jason. He can probably talk to you more about that. Run the numbers to make sure the property is going to be, be generating some income. But I just did it. I do the big renovation. I put a tenant in it. They should be so happy. It's so clean and nice. Yeah. But that particular model is probably not the best.
Right.
But that's how I did it.
Yeah.
I bought the property. I renovated it. I put a tenant in. Yeah. But I had the long-term mindset as well.
Nice. Well, when it comes to numbers, Jason's kind of a savant. So
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
This guy's like Bobby Fischer with chess, man. He's a different breed.
Rain Man.
Yes, he is.
That's Rain Man. He's a black Rain Man. Jason don't play when it comes to numbers.
But, in the area that I live, there's a couple, they're just going around buying everything. I mean, this guy offered me to buy a duplex for $98,000. I didn't have it. Mm-hmm. And then he put it on Zillow for $125,000, and this couple came by and just paid it.
Wow.
And they've been buying properties all around this place, in this close to the Air Force Base. They've just been snapping them up. They don't care. You want 70, and a lot of these homes around here are 150 and under. So this is a good area. It's close to the base. It's safe, quick access to the highway to get to St. Louis. I mean, this is probably an up and coming area, and they're just buying them. Boom, boom. And so my fear, which I need to get over, is how do I leverage the assets that I have? You know, people are talking about take the equity out and buy more properties, but in my brain, I don't want to get that much debt, because I have a lot of equity in my properties and I could probably go and leverage that. But to me, that would be way in that debt. But the people who are courageous and who are in this business don't have a problem leveraging that debt, or leveraging that equity. But I haven't reached that courage to do that just yet.
Yeah, this is the problem I have. I'm trying to solve this equation I came up with, is what is the enough number? Like, I have enough to sustain what I want to do, where I want to go. How do I stop? Because like you just said, our conversations and what our mindsets tell us is, hey, this money I can put towards here, I can get more. Another property, I can get this one and flip this one. You keep going. But at what point do we say, you know what, I think I'm good to go? I haven't figured the number out yet, but it should be a number where, you know, where I have enough debt that I'm comfortable with, or no debt, or property income producing property, and I'm good to go. But you just said, well, do I take some of this property here? Do I take some of this equity and then buy more, take on a little more debt? But then you got to think, are you comfortable with that extra debt? And what's the payoff if you take on more debt? Do you feel better about the income you're producing from that asset? Or now's another worry about more debt you got to pay off? You know, it's a balancing act, man. You got to figure out what's comfortable for you.
Well, here's what I'm seeing as I research that with people who are doing it. So with you, Jason, I think with me, we're at a certain level that we're comfortable, right? Hey, it's okay to buy a property. I fix it up. I put a tenant in it. We've surpassed that day-to-day paycheck where the people are just thinking like, I got to go to work 9 to 5. So we kind of rose a little bit above that in the thinking. The next level is that next level of thinking. $10,000, $2.5 million for those properties I was telling you about. So those people have broken that barrier of thought and are now in that realm of being able to play the game at the $1 million level. And they're comfortable there, just like I'm comfortable where I'm at with my little properties, doing my $1 million thing. So that mindset, I think that's it. If you can break that mindset and break into that next level, I think we'd be okay. But it's how do you get there, right? How do you break that into that mindset? Because it's just a game, but I haven't gotten comfortable to go to that, to get to the next level, right? I got to get to the next level.
No, that makes sense.
Of
it makes
the
a lot
game.
of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I call back in the day when you're thousandaires, you think differently than millionaires than you do decamillionaires and billionaires. You just think differently.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
yes,
it's rich.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lady on YouTube, you guys, called Noelle. I can't think of her last name. A black lady. She said she was poor in the basement of her parents' house, but she had done real estate before, then lost everything, got to a point where she had to move back home with her mom. And now she is 5 years later, she pulled herself out of that, and she is doing multi-million-dollar deals in Florida. And listening to her story, and she's got, coaching sessions and stuff like that you can do. But she broke that barrier and she got into that next level of thinking. And she says it too, that it's, Robert Kiyosaki, what Rich Dad, Poor Dad, And if you listen to their verbiage, they all say this is a game. You just have to learn how to play the game. And even she was saying, this is just a game. You can do anything.
Well,
you just have
Grant Cardone, he's big on that too. Grant Cardone, right? That's his name, Grant Cardone. Yeah, I think to get to that level, you have to want to be almost a conqueror, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it's everything we're saying. I think it's all mindset.
It's all mindset.
And it's a risk, and everything is a risk. You going to college was a risk. Us raising our hand to enter the military was a risk. But I think the more risk you take and the more you're rewarded, the more you understand. Like, wow, that was great. You submitting for your commissioning package and taking that GMAT and GRE, all of those are risks, because if you fail that test, what it does to your ego, you're like, I knew I shouldn't have never taken that. Like, I'm supposed to be where I am, just shriveled up. You know what I mean? But when you take that risk and it works out, you're like, all right, I need another risk. I need another something else to conquer, and it gets bigger. And then you get that home. You're like, let me get that building. All right, let me get that complex. Let me get that skyscraper.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's
a very interesting concept, because a lot of people are stuck in that fearful stage, right? Like you said, they're stuck in that siloed, myopic view of, okay, I'm just looking at what I can do tomorrow, right? And then, as you said, you break to that next level. And another thing that we haven't really spoken on, but I think speak volumes, is it's never too late, right? It's never too late to break that cycle, to break to the next level. I think that's something that I hope our viewers are grasping. Is never too late, because I get that a lot. Well, I'm 35 and I've never invested before. Like, is it too late to buy stocks? It's never too late. It's never too late to buy real estate. It's never too late to buy stock. And I think that, one day you will just break that level. And I'm looking forward to seeing where you are 5 years from now. Like, your story is incredible.
Yeah, you have to give yourself permission to do it, and then find the mentor who can kind of help you get there. So
I think a big thing is you kind of touched on it, is faith, right? Once you realize like your why and your purpose, that answers all of the questions of what am I comfortable with, I think. Because God, you have the money, you have the assets, but what are you going to do with it? What's the purpose? What's fueling you behind it? Because if it's just, you're just accumulating all of this stuff, is it for the generation behind you? Is it for you to set the example? Is it for you to give back? And I think that's what, that's what drives it. Is it for you to be the greatest? You know what I mean? Like, I want to come, when I leave this world, I want to be the best investor of all time. That's what's driving me.
Yeah.
Because sooner or later, it's not going to be about money.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And for me, it's just fun right now.
Yeah.
I wish there was a better why, but I do feel like I pay things forward. And if I see people that need help, I do my best to help them.
Oh, you definitely do.
But,
oh, yeah.
Huh? What's
you
that?
definitely do. One thing you do very well is helping other people,
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, right now it's fun. I have the energy. Why not? And otherwise, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit and just do nothing. So, and I give that a lot of thought, Reese. So, I don't have children, so I don't have anybody you guys may have children.
Yeah, we do.
Raise them up. You have somewhere to pass this on to the next generation. I've seen some very promising airmen who, hey, and I had a lady leave me some money in her will, and I thought, wow, this was very helpful. So why not do that? She was married, but her husband had passed, and I'd been her friend as an airman, and we kept in touch over the years, and she left me some money in her will, which you don't have to pay taxes on, by the way. But I was very thankful. I was like, dang, I wasn't expecting that. And then so I was thinking, why don't I help some other airmen out who have shown some potential, not just somebody who's, you know, who's going to take this ball and run it down the field a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be. I don't have a big why right now. This is just fun. I'm retired. Hey.
At the time.
That's exactly.
I mean, that is
you guys have kids,
fun,
raise them up and give it to them.
If it's enjoyable, that's what life is about, right? So for instance, like, so what you're saying is you're taking risks, you're doing something enjoyable, but majority of the world, or definitely the country, are going to this 9 to 5 for 40, 50 years, never doing it, and they're miserable, but they'll rather do that. And, you know, I mean, so that's your why, because you want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I want to do it. I like it. It's fun, you know.
Yeah, and the military was great. I mean, it's the cash cow. I mean, I loved the military. It taught me courage. It taught me how to take risk. It taught me how to analyze things. It taught me how to stick with things. It taught me failure, you know. I mean, you guys, all the leadership, followership, all that stuff, teamwork. I mean, all those great things that you get from the military. And now you can just apply it to your own personal business. I mean, Hakeem, you're getting ready to retire.
Yeah.
Hey, you've got a lot of great skills. So I knew I didn't want to come back and work for the military or a contracting job. I've seen too many guys retire, turn right around and come right back in that same job. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at a guy who's 67, you know, almost 70 years old, still churning out the same stuff I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And you know, there's the example to do and there's the example not to do. And I didn't want to come back and sit in the same seat.
Yeah. Right. No, I feel you.
Yeah, sometimes that's all you need. You may not have that example. You know, some of us get to that point where, like, what do I want to do? And then you work with those people where you're like, I know that's what I don't want to do. So some of these guys, they come in like 2 months after retiring, they got a polo or shirt and tie. They still shaving, they got the high and tight, like, you're still military, wearing business casual clothes, working the same hours, stressing in the same meetings. And that's good for them. You know, if that's their call, that's what they want to do, and it's enjoyable. But I'm looking at myself like, there's got to be more out there. There's got to be more out there.
And that's the question you got to ask yourself, too, in an individual. I talked to a guy years ago at a job I don't want to say his name, but I asked him, he did the same thing. He retired and he came back to work literally that Monday. He fired on a Friday, back to work on Monday in a suit. I said, let me ask you a question. If money wasn't an object, so money wasn't it, would you be doing this? And he said no. And they gave him pause to think, like, well, I'm focused on what you really want to do, not what you have to do. So you prepare yourself by doing what you have to do, be able to do what you want to do later. And that's the biggest key to that. A lot of those guys you're talking about that come in on Monday with the suit and tie on doing the same job, they didn't prepare. So they have to do what they already know because they didn't prepare for something they want to do, you know? Yeah. That's back to that.
And what sucks is they're probably making less than they were in the military.
Man, out the power.
That's what sucks. That's what hurts. Like, I don't want to live that life.
Yeah.
But generational wealth is a good thing, you know, and so if you guys got the kids, I mean, bring them up and teach them how to take that football and run it on down after you guys hand it off to them. I mean, that's wonderful. But otherwise, this year I was supposed to do some traveling. That's how I was able to save up a lot of money and buy that next property, because COVID just kept me locked down. And I was thankful to get that property because it got me up and out of the house to go do stuff, because, you know, at least I had a mission, was to renovate that property. And it, you know, I'm almost done with it. I'm going to put a tenant in it. And then I'm using up my the rest of my educational benefits. So I'm just taking a 2-year associate degree on hotel management at the St. Louis Community College, just to, you know, use up the rest of the little educational benefits, but it gives me something to do. And it's hotel management. So it's almost like running an Airbnb. And looking at the tourism industry, because I'm in it, not big time, but I'm in it. So it's all fun. and been great.
All right.
Love it. Love it.
So what we like to do is when we end up in a session, we like to go around and basically give people something tangible they can use. So what would you tell that, 25, 30-year-old, or maybe 18-year-old airman that is reluctant to invest or may not understand or may be intimidated?
Well, if I could go back and talk to my 24-year-old self when I came into the military, the first thing I would say is don't get into a lot of debt. And real estate is the way to go for now that I'm aware of it. But if you can buy a property every year, do it. For your 18 or 19, 20 years in, buy a property every year below your, not a $220,000 property, but something manageable. And then by the time you hit your 15, 16 year, start paying all that stuff off. And when you walk out the door, walk out debt free and, with all these properties, so you can collect your retirement and your passive income, and educate yourself and surround yourself by those people who are the movers and the shakers, who are doing what you want to do.
All right. What about you, Hakeem?
Take the risk. I think one thing that we kind of spoke about a lot today was, those individuals that get stuck in a silo, they have that myopic view. Take the risk. Don't be scared to jump out of your comfort zone. Like Angela stated, educate yourself. But, once you're educated and you feel like you've got a good group, good mentor or mentors, don't be afraid to take the risk, and you'll see the reward.
Yep, I would say find that mentor, find that person that knows more than you, or is in a position that you want to be in eventually, and talk to them. Or keep yourself open and ask questions. Like Angela's an example. She's where I want to be. I'm talking to her. I'm gonna ask her questions. Hey, how'd you do this? How'd you say this conversation? How'd you buy this property? Ask those questions, because those that are successful want to share their success. They're gonna want to teach you what they learned and help you prevent you from making mistakes they made. So find that mentor, find that person that's where you want to be, and start asking questions.
And I echo everything everyone's saying. I'll just add, know your why. Just figure out where you are in life and try to gauge where you want to be and figure out what's the gap. And kind of like what you said, Jason, what assets would it take to actually get there with minimum working for someone else or working at 9 to 5 and go from there. So, all great points.
Cool.
And thank you so much. We appreciate having you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how pleased I am to see this forum that you guys have. I think this is wonderful, and you guys are really doing some great things. And so thank you for having me on.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We enjoyed you. So, all right, everyone. We'll see you next time. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. See you next time. We out.
All right.